Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be repotting this Cork Bark Oak. Here is a look at the Cork Bark Oak. This little oak has traveled a long distance on its journey to becoming a bonsai. This Cork Bark Oak, Quercus suber, has come a long way. It came from Philipe in Portugal. This oak came to me last summer and it's grown well and it's gone through its first winter in Canada, and now it's time to repot it. I don't know if this oak is from a seed or a cutting, but maybe when I see the roots it'll give me some clues of how it was started. So I'll get the tree out of the pot. Ooh, there it is. So right away I can see the acorn that the tree was grown from, so it was definitely grown from a seed. So I'll get the root system raked out and get this tree underway to becoming a bonsai. So I've repotted a lot of little trees lately, and I think because I'm working on these trees early, I think they'll probably become some of my best bonsai into the far future, because I'll have worked on the root system and the upper structure. And whenever you grow a tree from a seed, you have sort of total control over the style and the quality of the tree. The later you leave it, the roots get tangled and you start getting problems. But if you start a tree from seed and then you work on it regularly, you'll end up with a really good quality bonsai in the future. So I've removed the shell of the acorn there, and I think, is there a drainage screen at the bottom? No, it's still in the pot, so I just need to rake out these roots. There's one white root here, so I don't know if that is from the acorn. It might be, but all the other roots don't look active at all. Okay, so I'm going to take it over to my washing station, wash all the old soil out of the roots, and then we'll come back for the root pruning. Here is a look at the root system on the tree. So there's one active root, the rest are totally inactive, and the tree has grown down. Well, it germinated from the acorn and then it was kind of growing down on an angle and then it shot straight up. So there's not a lot of root pruning I can do. I can prune off some of these roots that are kind of sticking up here. Prune those off. Kind of uncovering the root base. I can trim some of these long ones back. But I can't do a lot of root work at this point in time. It's just hasn't quite developed enough yet. So my goal would be to develop roots around the base of the tree and then remove this thick part eventually in the future. So all I can do now is plant the tree. You can see where it's curved under. There are some roots growing, radial roots forming. So I can plant it, let more roots develop, and then I'll remove that thick part off the root system eventually. So the tree is ready for planting. So I'll put it in the same pot because the pot's nicely labeled and it's a good size. I will prune a little off the top of the tree. So I'll prune this long leader back here. I'll prune this one here. Always pruning to an outward facing leaf. I can prune this one back to here. This one back to here. Just taking the tip off. And also this one. So that's got everything pruned up. So all the new growth should come spreading out from the main trunk. So I'll get the tree potted up now. So the pot already has drainage holes in it. So I'll add a base layer of soil. Okay, in goes the base layer of soil that the tree will sit on top of. And I'll want it at a depth something like that. So I'll hold the tree at the right level in the pot and then add my soil surrounding the root system like that. And I'll just work that soil into the roots, make sure there's no air pockets in there. And this tree should have a good growing season this year. It's being kept in the basement over winter, kind of at around 10 degrees Celsius, 10 degrees above freezing. And it stayed dormant pretty well the entire winter. So now it should be ready to grow. So I'll give the tree a water. Okay, here I go with the water. And I'll keep this tree out here in the greenhouse now. Got some cool weather coming up, but eventually it'll warm up in the greenhouse and the Cork Bark Oak should start growing. I'll rotate the tree around now for future reference. So here's the front, coming around to the right hand side, around to the back, the left hand side, and back to the front. The Cork Bark Oak is on its way to becoming a bonsai in the far future. So thanks very much, Philipe. And now it's time for today's updates. And today's updates, I'll show you all the progress of the trees that I've recently repotted. I'll start the updates in this corner over here. So down here is my Virginia creeper vines. The buds are swelling on it. That should be leafing out soon. Over here is the mugo pine. It's still looking green and healthy, and the needles are starting to extend on it. So far that repotting has been successful. The larch here continue to grow and the needles look healthy. So I think that has survived the repotting. Over here is the Rose of Sharon right here, and it's looking good. It's coming out into leaf. Over here is my cherry tree. I repotted it. I haven't got that video up yet, but it'll be coming. And you can see there's green shoots coming out all over that. Here is one of the maples I repotted, the one I had no idea what kind it is. I don't know. I think it's maybe a red maple. Over here is the yew tree. It's looking good. The buds are still swelling on it. The pollen cones are pretty well done on it. Down here is the dawn redwood. That's come out into leaf and it's looking good. Behind that is the catalpa, and it's got leaves just starting to show on the branches now. So that's exciting. Behind that is the wisteria, and it also has green shoots all over the branches, so that should be leafing out soon. Beside that is a crabapple. Well, yeah, there's just the one crabapple there. It's still looking good. Behind that is the edible figs, and they're not much change in those yet. In front of there, here is the Austrian pine. The buds or needles or candles are starting to swell and extend. It's getting lots of back budding on it. Yeah, so that's looking good so far. Down here are the hop hornbeams. They were just repotted recently, so there's not much change to those yet. The whipcord cedar, some of the growing tips are kind of turning a bright green on it. So I'm hoping it survives the repotting. Beside that is the Arakawa maple. It's looking good. The leaves are extending. Yeah, it's looking good so far. The twin trunk. On the other side of the bench here, I've got my trident maple. It's really leafing out. Looking good. Beside that is the Korean maple. It's also leafing out really nicely. The little spruce that I saved is the top bud has extended and it's got new fresh needles on it. Beside that is the crimson hawthorn. It's actually growing really well. So it recovered quite nicely. Behind that is the mulberry tree. Its leaves are out now and it's starting to grow. The silk tree here, the leaves are coming out on that now. It's taking its time, but I did a lot of root pruning, but I think it'll recover. Over here is the nightshade vine, and it has green leaves coming out on it now. So that's exciting. I hope it does well this year. Behind that is the elm, the backyard elm, the tall one. It's leafing out. Over here is my little fisherman penjing with the red maples, and it's leafing out quite nicely too. My silver maples here, they're leafing out really well. So are my sugar maples here. They're leafed out really nicely. I pruned up this Douglas fir here, and you can see there's lots of budding, back budding. It did better than I expected. It's really growing strongly, so that's nice to see. Up here are my royal oaks, or my English oaks, and you can see they're doing really, really well. Leafing out and growing, so that's exciting. Nice to see. Down below the bench here are my Douglas firs that I repotted, the larger ones. The buds are still swelling on them. There's no greenery showing yet, but hopefully they'll all make it, the three of them. Down here is my bur oak from Matt, and no sign of activity yet, and here's my three apples, my crab apples. There's still not much change in those. I have a big tray of cuttings behind here. A lot of Arakawa maple cuttings, Korean maple cuttings, and they're starting to leaf out again. They were planted last year when I pruned the trees up. They're doing well. The field maples are growing. The Amur maple's growing. Then over here I've got my Japanese black pine. Not much change on that yet. Hopefully I'll get buds all over it. That's my hope. My Dawn redwood here. No, this is the bald cypress. The bald cypress, the shoots are extending a bit now. My elm, no activity. The Russian olive here looks good. It's not growing with a lot of vigor yet, but I mean, it's pretty cool here. There's an update to my Pyrenean oak behind there, sent to me by Dave from Blue Sky Bonsai. It's leafing out again. The ginkgo here, which is down here, it's got green shoots on the buds, so I think that's going to make it. I planted a bunch of hickory nuts. I've got 3 pots of them. I just left one on top to know what it is, and some paperbark maples in the same pot. The paperbark maples, they never seem to germinate, so I just threw them in. You never know, you might get lucky. The London plane tree forest here, it's leafing out. My French lilac is also, the buds are swelling and extending a bit. That should be leafing out soon. The field maple over here, the buds are swelling on that. They'll be coming out with the leaves soon. And I think that's about it for updates on the newly repotted trees. So far, touch wood, everything that I've repotted this season so far is doing well. So yeah, that means I'll get overconfident and I'll take even more roots off next time. But no, that's how you learn. You have good luck with some, and sometimes you cross the line and you get overconfident with too much root pruning. But so far, I think this year I did as much root work as I could to the trees, and they seem to be surviving. So that is awesome. Oh, one more update. My gray bark elm here, it's leafing out really nicely too. That was repotted this spring. And I think that's it then. I have lots of repotting to go. I have all the trees in the poly house. I have some cedars in the greenhouse here. I've got the basement full of temperate trees, and then I've got the tropicals in the plant room. So basically the work never ends in the bonsai zone. I stay pretty busy, you know, the entire year. The only time things slow down is kind of towards the end of January and early February. And I try and do some special projects then. This year I made all those little tiny bonsai pots. So they'll be fired sometime once there's enough pottery to fill the kiln. So that is it for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.